This is the council work session, and the first item we have, okay, Councilman Jones is here. First item is Chief Joanne Rund. This is Chief John Rund. We're on page 9. This is 2324 CEB. Yeah, that's on it.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, Councilman Patoka, Council Chair Patoka, and council members. The fire department is requesting a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1.8 million to cover higher than anticipated callback and overtime expenses due to higher than anticipated vacancies, which incurs callbacks and overtime costs in order to maintain minimum staffing levels. These funds are necessary to cover the higher than anticipated callback expenses. During FY24, the fire department has experienced a high number of vacancies which required an increase in callback to ensure the necessary station coverage. Baltimore County surplus funds are available to cover these expenses. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Rund. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? I have one, and this is, I guess, for Director Reed. So, Director Reed, we just finished up, we just had the budget message and approved the budget for fiscal year 2025, and here we are at the end of year fiscal 2024. What are these, where are these unassigned general funds?
So, sir, the 1.8 is basically the rainy day fund, the unassigned, the 14% that we have. This 1.8 would come out of that, and then that combined with the BAT that we have coming would shore up the fire department in FY24.
So, in previous testimony, Director Reed, you said that the more we took out of the rainy day fund put to compromise our ratings from the three major rating agencies. And so how does this stand to that?
Yeah, I mean, this is $1.8 million, and we will still be, the intent was to remain under spending affordability for FY24. This would not be a material impact to the rainy day fund that's currently at about $500 million.
At some point, we're going to have to get a handle on the fire department's budget, because I'm having deja vu. I don't know if any of the other members are, that we were here a year ago doing the very same thing. And I think even in the budget message, there was notations to address being more accurate in our public safety agencies, where over the past couple of years, we'd had surpluses in the police department and deficiencies in the fire department and in corrections. At least, I think this year was the first year in corrections. But I just feel like there is a way to get this right. And you know, the budgeting practice of putting more into police and then trying to figure out what other public safety agencies need money, it's just an odd way to budget. So that's all I have. Chief Rund, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You have one other item, I think?
I'm sorry?
You have one other item, I think. The next item, we're
Yes,
going to hold you
sir.
up there for 2 items.
Yes, sir. It's a budget appropriation transfer. The fire department is requesting a council approval for a budget appropriate transfer in the amount of $5.835 million. These funds are necessary to cover the higher anticipated callback expenses as well, sir.
Okay, so we're at 5.8 plus, what's this one, 1.8? 5.8, 6.8, 7.6 million. Okay,
Yes,
I'm not going to repeat what I said just in the previous council transaction, but 7.6 million, that's a lot of cake.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I mean, we will be working with the fire department and all the departments to ensure that they remain within their budgets for FY25 and moving forward, and that they have the adequate resources. So we're relying on the departments to fill vacancies, to draw down callback and overtime. It's all interrelated.
Okay. I think I've kind of beat this to death, but I think everybody understands the point. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Jones.
Chief Rund,
Yes, sir.
I know you're sort of a short timer, So every time I see you, I'm going to thank you for your service and thank you for your service to, thank you for your service to the fire service, which you and I have a long history, but also thank you for your service to the Baltimore County Fire Department and the citizens of Baltimore County. So we
Thank you,
certainly
sir.
appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Next item is Deb Schindel, Property Management, Contract to Sale, the Hartford Building, page 2. I'm just following Tom's once I get on the screen. But I think is she here? Or is she virtual?
Good evening, Councilman Chair and members of the County Council. The administration is currently requesting the approval of a $5,000 contract with the Hartford Building LLC for the sale of the Perry Hall Mansion. The Perry Hall Mansion is currently owned by Baltimore County. Although the county has done some work to stabilize this home, it has never been utilized by any department and is in need of extensive maintenance and repair before any type of use can be considered. In addition, the opportunity for the county to use this very limited, if not unrealistic, facility, since meeting current day permitting standards, including ADA, would be difficult with the current MHT requirements. There's an MTE easement placed on a number of potential restrictions and requirements of the building and property. Among these are requirements and improvements, renovations, and major renovations to review and be approved by MHT. The property must be open to the public at a minimum of 5 times a year. Archaeological resources be preserved, and that any excavation greater than 12 inches be approved by MHT. That MHT may periodically inspect the property and for compliance and easement. As a result of placing this easement on the property, the county has received a $400,000 grant from the state to assist in the stabilization of the property. The county completed an exterior stabilization in the mansion in 2004, and in 2007, the county, through DPW, commissioned an interior restoration feasibility study. Following the study, the county installed a new HVAC and fire alarm system in 2009 with the approval of MHT. In 2010, the county completed renovations to the porch without prior approval of the MHT, of which it was cited by the state, and the county has since corrected this action. The capital cost for all of these projects is well over $1 million. To date, from 2013 to now, property management routinely inspects the facility as and completed over 100 building-related work orders to continue to stabilize the structure. This site is currently not on public or water or septic. The property is a dirt lane of the Perry Hall Road that is used to access this site located between the neighboring houses. There may be a possibility to bring the access from the home to another point of the property from the front of Meeting House Road. There is no paved parking area. The 3.9 acres is still all grass and would be hard to accommodate significant parking. In 2021, purchasing department and law attempted to sell this property twice with an RFP process to lease the site out for 2 years with an option to purchase. During the bid process, some interest was expressed, but when the bids closed, there was no actual bids received. So hence we have, as you are aware, we brought up the concept of taking this property to auction. And while we were in the process of doing so, we had a private, this company was very interested and privately contacted us saying they would be interested in selling it. So fourth, we're bringing this contract because it is different than the one we brought prior and it has different requirements. With it, we're asking your approval for this contract of sale.
Thank you, Ms. Schindel. Do any of the members, Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. I am extraordinarily familiar with the Perry Hall Mansion. In 2001, as president of the Perry Hall Improvement Association, we worked to have the county purchase this property, and it was the right decision. This is the property for which the community of Perry Hall was named. It was the site of meetings that led to the establishment of the American Methodist Church. It sheltered Methodist leaders during the American Revolution. It is an extraordinarily historic property. And we realized that the county needed to come in and stabilize the structure, landmark it from demolition, and basically save the building. And as Ms. Schindels mentioned, a lot of public resources have gone into improving this building over the past 25 years or so. But it, quite frankly, is time for the private sector to do its work. This is not related to the core mission of the Department of Recreation and Parks. And I believe that a private owner can help restore it to its former glory in time for Perry Hall's 250th anniversary in 2025. The prospective owner has met with the Perry Hall Manor Community Association, and I've been part of those meetings, and I believe has the best interests of the property at heart. As Ms. Schindel mentioned, the building cannot be demolished. There's a number of safeguards to preserve its integrity. It can't be overdeveloped. And this private owner has plans, I think, that working with the community can really get this building up to par, and it could be a showcase for private historic preservation, just like we've seen with places like Long Island Farm on Cromwell Valley Road. As much as I would love for the county to own this building, this is a case where I think the private sector can do it better. And for that reason, I support the sale of the mansion.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Councilman Catch? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Schindel.
I'd like to thank the administration, candidly. The building, if I can go.
Sure.
The building was in a state of benign neglect. It was deteriorating under previous county executives, and the county executive Olszewski and his team deserve a lot of credit for putting the money in the budget through this grant and also for carrying this through. So thank you, Deb. Thank you to the administration.
Okay, next we're going to skip around a little bit. We're going to go to the bottom item on the page, Resolution 3324. Councilman Marks?
I think is Senator Klausmeier or Delegate Jackson one?
Yes, we have some speakers here, some elected officials that are joining us. So we're happy to have, I think, Senator Klausmeier, also Delegate Jackson. Are they with us, Ms. Belcastro?
I'm getting them one right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
You want me to speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Well, thank you very much. So this resolution would reclassify 68 acres of county-owned land in Kearney and Perry Hall to add acreage to Honeygo Park and Indian Rock Park, create a new Seven Oaks Park and a Jennifer Run Park. This land is owned by Baltimore County. Some of it was acquired for road or other public projects and not used. It is currently maintained by Baltimore County, although the goal of this resolution is that it remains passive and not actively used. Simply wildlife areas that preserve green space in one of the most heavily developed and urbanizing parts of the county. And this is a goal for Baltimore County. If you read the Baltimore County Land Preservation, Parks, and Recreation Plan, it says the following, quote, with some areas of Baltimore County projected to see 4 to 6% growth in population between 2025 and 2035, it is vital that green spaces be updated and expanded to serve more densely populated communities, end quote. I first broached this concept with the administration 5 years ago, and I'll share with you all that letter from 2019. But it is my opinion that the county council can administratively act on this since the county is not purchasing the property. We own it already. And again, this is consistent with the county council's land use powers and reinforces our shared goal of increasing the canopy of green space in Baltimore County. Now, I am in discussion with the administration, which I think does have concern about some of the parcels involved here. And I intend to modify this proposal so that we're not, for example, adding stormwater ponds and things like that. But I really think the county needs to think outside of its silos. The goal here is to preserve green space. And let's think outside the box. Let's protect open space. Let's afford densely populated communities the parks they deserve. And again, at no cost to the taxpayer. There's no cost to the taxpayer except if we put signage at these parks. That's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. And have we rallied the senator?
I believe she is on via phone.
Okay, great. Senator
Senator
Klausmeier,
Klausmeier.
thank you so much for joining us here in the Baltimore County Council.
Senator Klausmeier, are you there?
Do you want to go to, have you located Delegate Jackson?
Delegate Jack?
Okay, can you hear me?
There she is.
Got you.
Hello, Senator.
Can
Thank
you
you
hear
for
me
joining.
now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm driving because I'm in between appointments here today. But I do want to say I'm Senator Kathy Klausmeier, and I am in full support of Councilman Mark's idea to make, there's, I believe, 68 acres in my district alone. But I really appreciate him coming to me and saying, hey, this is a great place to make parks since the county owns it already. And as I look back on the whole issue, I have been involved in the parcel of land by Seven Oaks Elementary School and Seven Oaks Senior Center, and been in that area many times, cleaning it up, trying to figure out what we can do with it. And I think a park that goes along with the school would be very educational, and it would just be very nice to have. So, and with the other parcels, I am in support of having them. And I also would like just to say, I know the councilman mentioned the sediment ponds and that sort of thing. If we are able to work with the department and get that straightened out, make that feasible, and work along together, I hope that we have a positive outcome. And with that, I hope I've said everything, but, and I apologize for rambling, but since I'm driving, that's the first time I've ever done this, let me just say. So, thank you very much for your time and consideration, and I hope something very positive comes out of this legislation.
Thank you, Senator Klausmeier, and you drive carefully now.
Okay.
Senator,
Oh, I am.
Senator, thank you for your partnership, and appreciate you joining us. Delegate Jackson did send a letter of support. Thank you.
Thanks. We have another speaker, Ms. Belcastro, on this.
Yes, Mr. Chair, one moment. Our next speaker is Daniel Butler. Mr. Butler, you're on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Okay, Mr. Butler?
Can you hear me? Hi, this is Dan Butler. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Dan Butler, and I'm a resident of Jomat Avenue in Kearney. If you're not too familiar with Kearney, you know, just to give you an idea, I'm near the intersection of Harford Road and Joppa Road, and my street is the street where the park and ride is. So I want to first of all thank Councilman Marks for his proposal. I appreciate it, and he's taken a lot of time to communicate with the community and to come and actually see where the area would be and you know, and to hear our opinion. So thank you very much, Mr. Marks. I live 3 doors down from the vacant wooded lot that is owned by Baltimore County. This wooded space and the field across the street were a draw for my wife and I when we decided to move to the county from the city. We wanted some space where our children could go out, explore, see nature, and it seemed ideal. It was only 2 doors down. Unfortunately, I cannot allow my sons to go into those woods because of its neglect, and also because of unwanted activities that take place at those woods, including quite a bit of illicit activity. These woods should be a treasure, and they are a treasure. It is much needed green space in Kearney, and it's a home to foxes, to deer, and all sorts of wildlife. This space needs to be protected and overseen by the Parks Department. It will only, live up to its potential if this is what happens. And we need to protect this green space as there is less and less of it in the county as development continues. I think that this approving this matter would be a sign to the community that the right things are a priority. This, if it is made into a park, would be the only park that is walkable from my home in Kearney. But there are 6 liquor stores in walking distance from my home, which I believe have all been approved by legislative boards. So that would just go. This would be a huge gesture to the community that the quality of life is a priority to the county council. It is my hope that this is approved. I recall my days as a kid. We had woods near my house, and the fact that we could go out there and play was never an issue. It was never a question for my parents, and I hope that by converting this into into a park, that I can say the same for my sons, and that they can go out and explore nature near my home. I thank you very much, and I yield. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Gary Burkhart. Mr. Burkhart, you're on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I do. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you welcoming us to this meeting with you and allowing us the floor to kind of allow the community a voice in that. So I appreciate that. I am actually, I live a couple doors up from the previous speaker, Mr. Butler, and agree with him that the reason my wife and I purchased this house was, one, I've spent many years here. This was actually my grandparents' estate. And like Mr. Butler had mentioned, we felt safe moving into the community and beginning to raise our family. We've since raised 3 children between the ages of 4 and 8 currently, and wanted to, enjoy the space. It started off, as Mr. Butler said, it's a beautiful wooded area. It has a nice field for us to go play field games and such. But within the last couple of years, we've had some issues with some homeless encampments coming up and just some illicit activity that is not part of what we feel is a strong community. So, we tried to do some of the right things. We fought, and we've gone through, efforts with the police department and various other county programs. The individuals have been resistive towards that. The police department tried to help where they have. And then, we decided that we needed more. And again, I'd like to thank Councilman Marks. He was very open to hearing our thoughts. He came out to us. He walked the premise with us, was very collaborative in some of our ideas. And we felt that we were able to come together with this park sort of solution and really want to show our full support for it. Again, it's a beautiful space. And instead of nice wooded trails and things for our children to walk right through right now, it's becoming litter filled. Obviously, we mentioned the camps popping up and things like that. We really want to help and support those people as well, but we want to do it the right way. And living in the backwoods in our community, we really would like to see that green space take over. So again, I thank the council for their time, and especially thank Councilman Marks for coming out and hearing this. And we want him and you guys to know that you have the full support of the Kearney community. And we really look forward to seeing what we can do with this green space initiative. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. Our next item is Walt Pesterfield, Director, Department of Corrections, for a budget appropriation transfer. This is on page 36 for those following along.
Good afternoon, councilors. The Department of Corrections is requesting council approval for a budget appropriation transfer in the amount of $988,000. These funds are necessary to cover overages for Airmark food service increases as a result of increased food pricing and contract negotiation, increased personnel costs resulting from more signing and referral bonuses due to increased recruitment, increased standby pay for maintenance staff, substitution pay, and increased overtime for correctional officers due to new recruitment training. Likewise, increases were essential in areas of equipment, vehicle repairs, operational expenses, office supplies, and uniform costs for additional staff. Funds from the police department will be utilized to assist corrections in meeting these obligations.
Thank you, Mr. Pesterfield. Any of the members' questions? I have one. Didn't we do this a couple of weeks ago?
I think we did.
Okay. So again, we have, what is the source of, maybe this is for Mr. Reed, what is the source of fund here?
Mr. Chair, it's the Police Department's Operation Bureau.
Okay, and it's going to cover correction. And why didn't we do this? Why are we doing this again when we did this a couple of weeks ago?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe this is the first time this has come from the council. I think we discussed it during the budget hearing, but this would be the first time that we've talked about it during the work session. Again, usually the BATs we do in the fourth quarter of the county fiscal year.
Okay. All right. I'm not gonna say what I said before, but I'm just gonna say, please keep in mind what I said before. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is Mr. Reed. Budget appropriation transfer, Office of Budget,
All right.
page 39.
Mr. Chair, council members, good afternoon. This is a request for a budget appropriation transfer of $1.3 million from the Operating Reserve for Contingencies Fund. We budget $2.5 million every year in case needs come up, as this ended up being one. This is a case where it's not necessarily that we're over budget, that we perhaps probably under budgeted to begin with. If you remember, we went live with Workday payroll and fully folding in our enterprise systems last May. And we had some retroactive postings when we were building the budget that hit, that caused us to be a little bit over. So this is kind of a response to that. And again, it's the Reserve for Contingencies budget that this is coming from, that combined with the other fire bat that we had would utilize that full contingency, which is why we have it. Again, we will not be over budget in total, and we will not be underspending affordability in total in FY24.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the members have any questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Reed. Next item.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, sorry.
I have a question for Mr. Reed off topic, if that's okay.
Yes.
Kevin, something that came up in our discussions in our budget deliberations, and I never had the opportunity to ask you the question, and I was discussing it with our auditors a little bit. So we were talking about our contingency, our government contingency fund, right? And my thought was that, well, contingency is a good thing. A tree falls through a building, we can replace that building or repair it. And that's why we have the contingency. And I thought, I was thinking, okay, so say a tree falls through a building. Well, my immediate thought was, well, we have insurance for that, but we really do not have insurance because we're self-insured. So that contingency, is that part of our self-insurance? Is that, it goes into how we're rated? Am I phrasing that correctly?
I think I understand your question, Councilman. So we do have excess insurance through local government insurance trusts that would cover property damages. The deductible is $100,000. So it's something that that's what we manage. But contingencies are not necessarily just for liability type issues or property damage, but for other things that come up as well. So I think this contingency that
opportunities or not necessarily a catastrophe or
not necessarily
something unforeseen that went wrong.
Operating contingency. I mean, this is operating the operating budget to $2.5 million is a very small contingency budget for a $5 billion organization. And, you know, if we have a $38 million snowstorm, for instance, like we, you know, that would pull on part of that and general fund balance. So it's something that we manage that, you know, it's kind of interrelated to your question, if that makes sense.
I think it does. So where we pay premiums on that government liability insurance, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Where do the premiums, where do they come out of the budget?
The insurance budget.
The insurance budget, okay. For a policy like that, just curious ballpark, what are we looking at premium-wise?
I can't give you an accurate figure, but it's well at 1.2, 1.5 million.
A year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. I have one question about insurance, Mr. Reed. So just out of curiosity, I noticed that both my homeowners, my car insurance has gone up significantly, even though I don't have a single claim. Is LGIT, are they also raising our rates?
We have yet to get our rate for 25, but we did budget an increase to account for that based on, you know, what we think is coming in. So I could give you an exact figure off that. I don't have that off the top of my head.
No, just curious if it was like all other insurance. Okay, thanks. Okay, next item is Bill 3124, sponsored by Patoka, Ertel, Cash, and Marks. This is Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance. I think we've talked a lot about this. There's some amendments, and I think they're back. There was some fluctuation as to whether they were up, and I think they're up now, Ms. Belcastro. And so we're just going to go right to the speakers, unless any of the council members have something they want to share. Any council members? Okay. Then, Ms. Belcastro, could you call our first speaker?
Our first speaker is Rob Allmiller. Mr. Allmiller, you are on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Hello. My name is Rob Allmiller, and I'm a Baltimore County resident, a local real estate professional, and my children all attended Baltimore County Public Schools. I'm testifying in opposition to Bill 3124. School overcrowding is an issue at many county schools and should be addressed. However, this bill won't do anything to improve overcrowding, especially since new development is at an all-time low in the county, with just 335 building permits issued last year. This bill will, however, stifle economic growth and push up house prices and rents by limiting supply. It will also label the county as an anti-affordable housing jurisdiction and may encourage the state to remove additional local land use controls. I understand that the council wants to address school overcrowding, yet has almost no control over the school system. It is ultimately the responsibility of the school system to use its resources more efficiently, and thus far they have been reluctant to do so. I also believe that the ultimate goal of the council is to not just reduce school overcrowding, but to improve the quality of public education throughout the county, not just at our best schools, which tend to be the most overcrowded. This is why I and many others recommend the council establish a new task force to study overcrowding relief and to improve education quality at our schools. The prior task force is now 4 years old, occurred without school participation, was too narrowly focused, and lacked available data since it occurred in the first year of COVID restrictions. A new task force could take a more holistic approach to quality education and create recommendations, not just for the council, but for the school board too. This task force would be populated with a diverse range of professionals from education, business, legal, and the public and private sectors. It would ratchet up the urgency to improve public education by providing real recommendations for our school system to explore, including APFO, redistricting, and others. I urge the council to table this bill and pursue a more holistic and collaborative approach to improving public education through the creation of a school task force on quality education, which can produce recommendations for the council and the school board to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allmiller. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Matt Hill, who is here in person.
Mr. Hill?
Well, I apologize, Mr. Chair, if I were here for Council Resolution 3124, not Council Bill 3124.
Oh.
Okay, I'll tell you what, okay, we're not there yet. Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Greenspun.
Okay, Mr. Greenspun.
Mr. Greenspun, you're on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Patoka and other members of the council. I am Michael Greenspun, and I've been a developer in Baltimore County for 23 years, and I'm currently chair of the MBIA Baltimore County chapter. I am here to again speak against Bill 3124. I'm aware that amendments to this bill have been posted on the county website, and some of them certainly help improve this bill. But at the end of the day, I still stand by our industry's strong recommendation that another task force, this time more balanced and inclusive, be convened to better study the issue, not just of development's impact upon school overcrowding, but the broader and much more important issue of school overcrowding itself. For as we have repeatedly stated, this bill does not solve the issue of overcrowded schools, but it will dramatically harm the home building industry and home affordability. But you don't have to just take my word for it. The Baltimore Sun published an editorial on May 22nd in which they said about this legislation, quote, "At best it merits a grade of I or incomplete for lack of effort. At worst it deserves failing marks as an obvious attempt to avoid hard choices and address the underlying problem," end quote. And what is that underlying problem? Again, the Sun spelled it out. Quote, "The problem isn't lack of capacity. It's a failure to take reasonable measures, including redrawing school district lines to properly proportion students to schools," end quote. The Sun completely understands what this legislation will accomplish, as they asked, quote, "So what is the council poised to do? Pass legislation that further slow down the whole process. That won't fix schools. It won't fix the lack of affordable housing. It might, of course, briefly satisfy any in the electorate who quake at the thought of school redistricting or apartment dwellers showing up in their neighborhoods. But that's not leadership," end quote. Finally, what does the Sun think is the solution to the problem of school overcrowding? As they said, the council members, quote, "should be challenging the school board to redistrict schools or face a possible cut in funding," end quote. They also suggested that the council could accelerate the county's school construction program, but that, quote, "redistricting holds the best hope to actually reduce overcrowding," end quote. The task force we are strongly advocating could and should address the problem holistically, with all options and solutions on the table, including the creative use of magnet schools to incentivize redistricting, and not just focus on the least fertile area of halting new housing. I know that some members of the council earnestly want to do something about school overcrowding and would suggest that perfect is the enemy of good, and that this bill, even if not perfect, is better than doing nothing. But I would suggest that this bill is far from perfect, and even if fixed up, will still not result in good. It might give the illusion that the council is trying to fix overcrowded schools, but this bill won't do that. But it will make the lack of housing in the county, which is bad, even worse. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Belcastro. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Steve Smith. Mr. Smith, you are on as a panelist. You begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Steve Smith. I've been a lifelong resident of Baltimore County and am a professional in the real estate business. Thank you for your time and efforts with this legislation and yet another opportunity to testify before you. Without having seen the latest amendments, it is difficult to comment regarding the bill's current condition. However, I do believe it is safe to say that the bill is still not ripe for approval, as it appears it is still being revised in somewhat of a vacuum. I strongly urge that you consider our underlying comment that the bill be sent to a task force comprised of county and BCPS professionals, development industry experts, and community leadership to collaboratively scribe legislation that actually addresses school overcrowding. This can be done in a timely fashion and will not be simply kicking the can down the road, as has happened in the past. When working to get development approvals, and even with the CZMP process, we are often advised by you to reach out to the community to get their agreement in order for you to then offer your support. I now ask that you do the same, allowing the parties most central to this issue to work together to arrive at new legislation that works for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Roland Patterson.
Mr. Patterson?
He is on virtually.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I come today with a grave spirit. You and I know that we are all the NAACP from which I come, the county government from which you come, and the Housing and Urban Development Department are all members, or rather parties, to the VCA, Voluntary Compliance Agreement. It is our view that the current amendment, I suppose, that was proposed by Mr. Hertel seems to target Red Maple, the Red Maple project, which is a current affordable housing project. The county is behind by a fair margin on the affordable housing project commitments to which it agreed under the VCA. While we all respect the goal that you have put forward here of fighting school overcrowding, there is an improvement plan that is in place right now by the school system to address this issue. I must associate myself, therefore, with the testimony, the written testimony of the attorneys for the NAACP, one of whom is Matt Hill. That's the written testimony they've submitted. I associate myself on behalf of the branch with the positions taken by the three real estate experts or professionals who have testified. And I move toward my close by simply saying that we have not communicated in a meaningful way. I don't know whether it is your intention to block affordable housing, but that is the impact that is being wrought. If I'm wrong, if that is not the intention, then better communication is needed. We are left now, as I close, we are left now to discuss the possibility of injunctive relief with our council. This isn't the way we want to work. We want to work in a collaborative, congenial manner. We need you to do the same. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Your timing was perfect, Mr. Patterson. You finished minutes exactly. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please. Oh, Mr. Boswick, I'm sorry.
Mr. Patoka and members of the council, I believe that Mr. Patterson had signed up, similarly to Mr. Hill, had signed up for Resolution 3124. We were we had a little miscommunication in our sign-up sheet. So that testimony was directed for Mr. Hertel's Resolution 3124. So if you can compartmentalize that for the last 3 minutes to that resolution, I think the remaining four persons are on Resolution 31, I'm sorry, Bill 3124.
And I apologize.
Three more.
No worries,
No,
Mr. Patterson.
Patterson is fine.
We're going to hold your thoughts in place. When we get to that, we know Mr. Hill's going to speak on that as well. So everybody keep that in mind, and we'll go back to the other speakers, Ms. Belcastro.
Yes, so the next speaker for Bill 3124 is David Murphy.
Okay.
Mr. Murphy, you are on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Patoka, members of the County Council. My name is David Murphy. I'm with Elm Street Development. I'm here to testify in opposition to Bill 3124. As I stated at the two previous hearings, I'm concerned that this bill is being unnecessarily rushed and in doing so will trigger many unintended consequences without effectively addressing school overcrowding. I'm concerned that a 4-year-old report is being put forth verbatim as a legislative action with many important questions still left unanswered. I'm concerned that this bill will have significant negative impact on new housing and economic development in the county, with the hopes that doing so will compel future school reform, when in reality, this bill will do nothing to address school overcrowding and will only discourage future investment in our community. I ask that the council please table Bill 3124, and that a new task force be convened representing all invested parties, many of whom have expressed concerns over the course of today and the previous 2 work sessions, so that real solutions to school overcrowding may be pursued. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Steve Whalen, who is here in person. Too much multitasking.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Whalen.
There we go. Mr. Chair, members of the council, my name is Steve Whalen. As you all know, I'm a real estate developer from Catonsville, and we've talked about this one for a while, have we not? I was taken a couple of meetings ago by Councilman Crandall's comments about Sparrows Point High School, and I thought he hit the nail right on the head. The reason it's at 130% is because it's a good school, not because it's a bad school. And maybe the lesson for us is that we need to work on those schools that are under capacity to make them as attractive as the ones that are over capacity. I think that's the 40,000-foot view that we need to keep in mind as we review this entire issue, because I'm concerned that the impact falls on a very small portion. If the problem is this big, the issue is this much of it because of the relative limitations on new development today. There just isn't that much, and you're not gonna move the needle enough with what you're doing. I submitted, and I don't know if they've been distributed, comments specifically. I'm returning to Councilman Marks's concern about making sure we don't just criticize, but emphasize individual aspects. I just have to say again, the focus on tying this to square footage doesn't make any sense. The nexus should be with bedrooms, not overall square footage. I would tell you again that other municipalities have limited the bottom line, if you will, to 105%. I think you need to give yourself the flexibility, understand that overcrowding and even undercrowding situations are often temporary and fluid, and that you have to have some flexibility to be able to address them. 105% makes more sense. And finally, we're in a situation where redevelopment is going to be a very important part of how this county moves forward. The correlation to square footage comes back again. Redevelopment projects that do not increase the total number of project bedrooms rather than dwelling units is where the focus should be. Why would you penalize a change from more bedroom intensive dwelling units to larger, probably higher price point, less bedroom intensive dwelling units? It doesn't make any sense. And frankly, it's the bigger houses that are going to bring in the tax revenues to be able to support the expansion of the school system. Lastly, the last 2 items on there, purpose-built student housing needs to be excluded from the list of exempt projects, it needs to be put on the exempt project list, and I do like the grandfathering clause. If this is going to happen, that makes all the sense in the world. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I want to thank you for your comments regarding the academic performance of some of our schools. You're right on target. I would suggest that interested parties in Baltimore County, please contact your members of the school board about this issue. You're absolutely right. Redistricting can be a real problem. I mean, you got to be strong and be there supporting it. But however, you can understand why parents do not want to take their children out of a school that's performing well academically into one that is not. So as a school board, as a school system, as a county, we got to make every effort possible to bring all our schools up that that they're successful, and citizens will want to send their children to those schools. At one time, Baltimore County's elementary schools were great, all of them. But there's been some slippage, quite a bit of slippage. So it can be done. And I asked you, the people in the building industry, the teacher, everyone that's interested in our schools, please contact your member of the school board. The legislature enacted, let me see, I guess it was about 2012, legislation to have elected members of the school board, one from each councilmatic district, and some at-large members. And the purpose of the elected school board is that that person from, for instance, my district, well, take your District 1, from your District 1 would know the area and would know what schools need the help. Because I know that the people up here in the council would be supportive of efforts to improve our schools. That is, I know there's a lot of talk about people moving out of the county and, et cetera, et cetera. Well, one of the major factors that industry looks at if they're going to relocate or expand is they look to see the quality of the schools. And so if we can turn our schools around, we will begin to, instead of decreasing in population, increasing and hopefully bringing in higher paying jobs. And of course, as part of that is homes, the availability of quality homes. And so, but it's all together. The schools, the homes, the crime, all of that. We need to work very hard to resolve those problems. And I thank you for your comments.
Councilman Katch, I can only tell you as a lifetime resident of southwestern Baltimore County that we've been in competition with Howard County for as long as I've been around. And one of the selling points in Howard County is a quality school system across the board. I know the chair has talked about, wouldn't it be nice if Baltimore County were in that kind of position? And I think this is exactly the circumstance that Councilman Crandall was talking about. Let's not worry about as much. Let's not devote as much in the way of resources to the really good schools that people recognize by voting with their feet. But let's take the ones that people say, I don't want to go there, and make it more attractive, however we can do that most efficiently. Apparently, we have roughly enough seats to accommodate the demand for, but it's not being adequately distributed. It's a distribution issue, and it's bringing the laggards up to at least a median or mean level of competency so that people aren't going to fight like hell if the solution to an individual area's problem is your kids are going to that other school, okay, as opposed to the one that's closest to home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Ortel?
Mr. Whalen, I think we generally agree on things.
I just want to be clear about some of the issues that we have in Baltimore County. You referenced Sparrows Point High School, for instance, and let me give you the dilemma there. So if you know where Sparrows Point is, it's down on the very southeast corner of the county, and there's no bridge anymore to cross the water. That school, there are no schools near there that have capacity. So the only schools that we have capacity, I think we have some capacity possibly at Lansdowne High School. So if we had a bridge, we might be able to bus kids 35 minutes to Lansdowne High, or we could go 55 minutes to Woodlawn High. So it's not as simple as often the pundits that come in here talk about as if we have two schools right next to each other and we're keeping all the kids in one school in, let's say, Parkville High School, and Overly High School right next door is undercrowded, and all we got to do is do a quick redistricting and fix it all. It's not that easy. And the county is geographically one of the biggest in the state. Like Baltimore City, for instance, Baltimore City's in a very nice square almost where you could theoretically send kids, 15 minutes across town and relieve the overcrowding. But in a county like this, redistricting is a small piece of it where we do have certain areas where we could redistrict, but then we have others where the only way we're getting out of the crisis is either building new schools, adding additions to those schools, or trying to convince kids to take a much longer bus ride to a magnet school. And then we also have a faction of the population who is not for magnet schools in the sense that they siphon off kids from the community to go to, let's say, Carver High School from Dundalk, and that kid plays sports there and doesn't play at Dundalk High School, or doesn't, isn't part of the alumni association. And again, I went to a magnet school in the city. I'm not speaking against magnet schools, but some of these issues are a little more complex than what the builders talk about. And I'm not addressing this to you. I just thought it would be a good time to address it.
I understand exactly what you're saying. You have laid out the definition of a conundrum, okay? It's a difficult situation to address, but I think raising the level of all of the boats is going to make it easier. You're not going to take people from Sparrows Point and transfer them to Lansdowne. That doesn't make any sense at all. One of the suggestions that was in the bill, if I read it correctly, was that a new development perhaps could be targeted to a different school, okay? Mr. Developer, if you want to do this and you think you can sell it to your prospective purchasers, can we send your folks to this other high school, let's say, rather than the one to which they would typically be targeted? And you take the risk that you're going to be able to do that and still sell those houses at a price that makes sense. That's an interesting possibility and solution. Is it legal? That's for somebody other than myself to say. But there are a number of options here, and I hope you'll explore them all, because I'm concerned about the fact that the impact of this bill falls on a very small sector, the new home building industry, and you may get some satisfaction from saying we stopped or slowed building in your particular district, but I don't think that solves the long-term problem, and it is a long-term problem.
Thank you, Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, as always.
Oh, Councilman Jones has a comment.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Whalen, for your thoughtful comments and your continued advocacy and your continued testimony. So thank you very much.
I love this county and I love Catonsville, and I want to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
That's the last speaker for this item.
Okay. Okay. No, he's on the next. He's on a different issue.
Mr. Chairman, we did have the other speakers on Resolution 3124.
Why don't we go to Resolution 3124? We have, I think, 2 speakers left.
Yeah, and that's the only other matter we have speakers on. That's it.
Okay. Have at it, Ms. Belcastro.
Do you want me to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, I apologize, Councilman Ertel.
I can't find the bill in here, but I know what it is. So this bill has to do with design guidelines in historic East Towson.
Your Michael.
It is not, sorry. This resolution has to do with design guidelines in historic East Towson. Historic East Towson is one of our oldest African-American communities in Baltimore County. It was founded by freed enslaved people from the Hampton Plantation about 160 years ago. Years ago, the community went through a collaborative planning process to address the design guidelines to try to preserve the character of this storied community. And for some reason, there were areas that were carved out of the design guidelines unbeknownst to the community. This resolution merely puts those sections back into the East Towson design guidelines, and that's what I'm doing here. So I guess we'll hear from the speakers and go from there.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Ertel. Ms. Belcastro, now you can have at it.
Matt Hill is our first speaker, who is here in person. You got the timer? Do you have the timer?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, council members. My name is Matt Hill. I'm an attorney at the Public Justice Center today representing the Baltimore County branch of the NAACP. You have my written testimony. Resolution 3124 in its current form applying to projects that have not been issued a building permit but that are still in court litigation is the third meritless attempt by the council to block the development of Red Maple Place, this time with an illegal special law creating a zoning change, even though that project has been approved and that approval has been affirmed twice on appeal. When will this end? Red Maple is essential to the county's efforts to meet its obligations under the voluntary compliance agreement entered into with HUD and the NAACP. As I testified before you a couple weeks ago, the county is in violation of that agreement. For example, the county's only leased 456 of the 754 units of affordable housing that are required under the agreement. And Red Maple is currently included in the county's compliance. This resolution would essentially take it out of their compliance. The census tract where Red Maple would be located is perfect for affordable housing. There is very little affordable housing for families with children in Towson. Towson has terrific education, transportation, and employment opportunities. And so we strongly urge the council to reject this bill, which would effectively block Red Maple. Councilman Marks attempted to block the development with a zoning change in 2020. The council passed a resolution in 2023 asking the state to block the development due to alleged environmental concerns that had already been extensively litigated and found in favor of Red Maple. And so this resolution is just the latest in a pattern of actions by this council that have undermined the agreement and any attempt to affirmatively further fair housing as required by federal law. I understand that the county attorney will describe further why this resolution is an illegal special law in violation of the Maryland Constitution. That's also in my written testimony. But the combination of being an illegal special law and a negative impact of this resolution on fair housing choice throughout the county should, we think, compel the council to vote against it. Thank you.
Looks like we have a couple of speakers. Councilman Ertel?
I'll let David Marks go first.
No, you can go first.
Okay. Mr. Hill, this is a vested project. I don't understand how this is going to effectively remove this from as a housing choice. And once again, I'm at a loss for why the NAACP doesn't have any concern for one of our oldest African-American communities in the county. it just, again, seems you have very myopic concerns about housing at all costs. It doesn't matter what it does to a community. And like I said, this is a bill that just deals with design review, with design guidelines. I'm not sure where, I'm not sure how it takes away the Red Maple project.
Yes, Councilman. So if the last sentence of the resolution says that it applies to any development for which a building permit has not been issued and appeals in the courts are still pending, my interpretation of that language is that Red Maple would be covered by this resolution. And so it would effectively subject it to the East Towson Design Guidelines, which is what the litigation has been about for the past 4+ years. And so I don't believe this is a myopic concern. I believe, again, that this is part of the pattern or practice of blocking affordable housing that this council has undertaken.
And again, if it was subject to the East Towson Design Guidelines, even if it did apply to this project, wouldn't it merely just make it more consistent with what the neighborhood looks like instead of a prison-like building that you're building there?
Councilman, I strongly disagree with the characterization this is a prison-like building. It's a 50-unit, 4-story building, again, in a perfect census tract in Towson that has lots of education opportunities, transportation, employment opportunities. And so it would, though, as my understanding from the developer, make it economically infeasible if it's subjected to these new guidelines, which again has been the exact subject of litigation for the past 4 years that this council would undermine through this resolution.
Mr. Hill, could I ask you why you don't want it to be attractive, the building? And you don't want to subject it to design guidelines, so you just want it to be irrespective of how it looks?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all, Mr. Chair. I think that it should be an attractive building. I think that it is an attractive building. Again, it's been litigated for 4+ years. All of these issues have been raised. This council has tried to undermine the project twice before. It's been affirmed on appeal twice, and I don't understand why the council is trying to really
Well, I don't think this council is undermined. I think that if you were here when it was first approved, the antics that this council undertook by abstaining, that was the most irregular actions I've ever seen on this council. And so I think you're mischaracterizing the functions that we have done and the actions and inactions of the council, especially the past council. So
I disagree.
Anyhow, I think the bill, it was, a lot of people think that Frank Lloyd Wright said that form follows function. He did not. His boss, Louis Sullivan, said that. Frank Lloyd Wright said form and function are one. So I believe if form and function are one, we can get an attractive building that meets the VCA agreement. And I think the developer of this should consider that. Thanks.
Again, this has been litigated for 4+ years, and now the council is trying to undermine it.
Okay, and Councilman Marks?
And in 10 years, Mr. Hill will still be mentioning me and insulting some of us. That's all.
You're not alone. He's taking shots at me as well. Thank you, Mr. Hill. And the things you did write, I think, are I think they don't characterize the situations. You need to do a little bit more research when you write things.
Councilman, Mr. Chair, I respectfully disagree, and I don't believe I've insulted anyone. I've simply laid out the facts as I've seen them, observing the council at work under the voluntary compliance agreement for the past 7 or 8 years.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Safe travels up to Phoenix. Okay. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Dana Johnson, who is online.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm the CEO of Homes for America, and we are the developers of Red Maple Place. Red Maple Place is going to be a modest-sized building of 56 affordable and market-rate apartments located in downtown Towson on Joppa Road on a site that has been zoned for over 100 units for decades. Homes for America is an award-winning nonprofit that builds and operates high-quality housing. We have spent, as Matt Hill shared in his remarks, 7 years working on bringing quality, attainable rental apartments to serve county residents in the midst of a national, state, and county housing crisis. We have raised millions in private and state funds to serve Baltimore County residents in numerous locations. We have spent well over $1 million of our own funds to pay for engineers, architects, and other costs required to obtain approvals for and proceed with the construction of this downtown Towson apartment building. We have followed every county process, even ones that were newly imposed after our process started, and the development plan has been reviewed and approved by every required county department. Our development plan was approved by the county administrative law judge. It was approved by the circuit court. It was approved by the appellate court of Maryland. Throughout the 7 years, but in large part during the early phases of the development, we met with representatives from the surrounding community in large and small groups more than 10 times and made several adjustments to the property at a large cost to try to address some of the neighbors' concerns. We believe we have literally done everything we could possibly have done to address the county's housing needs at a critically important location and to address the concerns of neighbors who simply do not want affordable housing in their backyards. And yet this council continues to harass this development with multiple attempts like this one to kill the development. What message does this send to the entire business community? Please come invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in Baltimore County. Follow all of our required process for your approval. Successfully defend yourself on all approvals, but beware, we might later decide that the politics have changed and we're going to try to bankrupt your business by trying to derail your investment. This has got to stop. Red Maple Place will be an asset to Towson and will be a wonderful home for hundreds of families for years to come. Please do not pass this resolution. And I want to just remark that these design standards would kill this project. The design standards are for single-family homes and they have a 2-story height restriction. So this bill, this resolution, if it were to pass, would effectively kill the development. Thank you.
Question for Councilman Ertel related to this. So from what you said, Councilman, that the neighborhood is already subjected to these guidelines, correct?
That is correct.
And this was just a cleanup of a piece of property that was not included?
This corner was taken out of it for some reason.
And is that the full footprint of Red Maple?
No, it includes other properties as well.
Okay. So you're just making it consistent with the rest of the neighborhood?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I don't know if Ms. Johnson's still on, but I just want to know what's wrong with having an attractive building. And I can't get through, I can't understand through that. Why not have an attractive building? Why do we want, and no disrespect to Glen Burnie, but do we want to be Glen Burnie? Do we want to look like Ritchie Highway? If we don't have design guidelines, that's what we'll be. Councilman Marks?
I just want to commend my colleague, Mike Ertel, for listening to the people he represents and trying to do his best with regard to this project, as I try to do. Ms. Johnson's incorrect. It was not this council that did anything, as Councilman Patoka mentioned. It was a previous council, and you're correct. My recollection is there were 3 abstentions on that bill. I've been in office for 13 years. I can't recall any time there have been 3 abstentions on a bill.
And certainly, I can't say with 100% certainty, but it appeared orchestrated to me. Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker and final speaker for this item is David Thaler, who is here in person.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Patoka, members of the council.
I'd like to speak against this bill. I'm David Thaler. Most of you know me, but you might not know that I'm a former chairman of the Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce, and I also run an engineering company in Baltimore County we're just coming up on our 50th anniversary. I would, Chairman Patoka and Councilman Ertel, I really would like to correct the problem with the design standards. The design standards you're referencing are two-story design standards. You can't have much of an apartment building in 2 stories. It's not a question of making it pretty or not, or designing it better or not. It's that you can't do it under these current design standards. And so that this bill, as proposed, would kill this job. Now, we've been working on this job I think for 7 years now. Homes for America is one of the most acclaimed national provider of affordable housing based in Annapolis. They have spent more than $1 million. I don't know if Dana mentioned that, more than $1 million on this to go through the process. It was approved by the hearing officer. It was not approved by the Board of Appeals 2-1. It was approved by the Circuit Court, and it was now approved by the what's now known as the Court of Appeals in Maryland, the second highest appellate court. And it's finally been approved. The other thing I'd like to correct is this is not in the East Towson historic area. The East Towson, this is on Joppa Road, which is really the perfect spot. It's not in the East Towson historic area, which sort of divides the property. All the construction is up on is up on Joppa Road, right where it should be, where it has mass mass transit. This is a undeveloped piece of property. It's an infill piece of property. It's really right where it supposed to be. We engineered this, I think for the first time ever in my long career, twice. We did it once when the building was closer to Hamlet Hill, and at the request of the community, we moved it and re-engineered it completely a second time. But what I'm more concerned about, I touched on my last visit here, is the shortage of housing in Maryland, the shortage of housing in Baltimore County, and especially the shortage of affordable housing. We don't have enough, and the council has. May I continue, Mr. Chair? And the council has this conciliation agreement. It's fair housing. We as a community have decided to provide more affordable housing. There really couldn't be a better spot than right on Joppa Road. I've been doing this a long time. I've worked on more than 4,000 projects, and I've always been proud of Baltimore County. And we go out there and we work for clients really all over the world sometimes, and I try and get them to come here. But why would anybody come here, especially to build affordable housing, and have it 7 years of opposition, have to go to Court of Appeals and been before the county council, I think twice already, if I remember. This sort of sends to new residents, Baltimore County's population, as I touched on my last visit here, peaked at 853,000 and is now slowly diminishing. The reason it's diminishing is one major reason is the cost of housing. We need this affordable housing. Baltimore County, as has already been mentioned, only did 365 permits, residential permits, only 45 of which were multifamily in 2002. This, I know this bill was well-intentioned. I mean, who wouldn't want a nicer looking, better designed a project? I know it's well-intentioned, but the unintended consequence here is severe. We won't meet up with our conciliation agreement requirements, and this sends a message to investors everywhere: don't come to Baltimore County. Councilman Ertel.
Okay, so let me back up a few seconds here. I've been a councilman now for about 18 months. I have 2 affordable housing projects. Actually, we're getting ready to introduce a PUD for one tonight for 122 units, also in Towson. And I defended one that my former colleague approved in Rosedale. So I'm not against affordable housing. What I am against are projects that look like industrial factories and prisons. You say that the design guidelines don't apply to anything above 2 stories, but yet Harris Hill, right next door, whether they were subject to those guidelines or not, they followed them, and they have a compatible project that looks like.
Well, they're all townhouses. They're 2-story townhouses.
They're not townhomes. The building that you're building right next to is an apartment building.
Yes, but Harris Hill's townhouses.
Harris Hill's condos, but it's an apartment building that's similar
It's not 4
size
stories high.
that you're building. That's being built there. And that looks like compatible to the neighborhood, but this is an industrial looking building and this is part of the problem, is that I've come in as a new council person. I'm looking at this project in a community that the county has continually just gone after for its 160 years of existence. We put a BGE substation in the middle of this community. We've tried to run highways through it. We've done all kinds of things to East Towson, and it's got to stop somewhere. And asking to build a building that looks decent, that is next to their neighborhood, is not like we're asking to cut an arm off. I realize it must be, but.
Well, in fact, I know you're well-intentioned here. I completely understand. I completely understand that. But in fact, what you've put in the bill would kill the job, period, end of story. Okay, and it is true that East Towson hasn't been cared for properly, and really its historic fabric is all gone. The road goes through there, and the BG&E substation is in there, but this isn't in East Towson. It's on Joppa Road. Okay, it is not part of historic East Towson.
It's 50 feet from East Towson.
It is 50.
There's no wall. There's no wall.
Yes,
We're not building up the hill.
There is a wall, sir.
We're building right behind it.
There is a wall. We designed a wall on this. There is a wall between this and East Towson.
Okay.
Mr. Thaler?
Sir.
It was Councilman Ertel referenced this, but when you said this is the perfect spot, that's exactly what BG&E said, Baltimore Gas and Electric said, I think in the 60s. They went to the ball field in historic East Towson, and they looked at that ball field, a ball field where that's the former Negro leagues, baseball leagues, players would practice there on that ball field. And they said, this is the perfect spot for a BG&E substation. And now we're again looking for the perfect spot in historic East Towson. You don't have to respond to that. I'm just being rhetorical.
May I?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Remember, I used to be on the Landmarks Preservation Commission. What BG&E did 60 years ago would never be done today. But this is not in historic East Towson. The fabric of historic East Towson has really been removed by the county and BG&E. This is in Towson itself, up on Joppa Road. And as I've said, we need affordable housing. How many times do we want to get sued in the county? I want to be proud of the county.
Well, we are making progress towards, I understand, and Mr. Hickey is here, we're at 750 on our way to 2,000, on our way to 1,000. Is that, Mr. Hickey well, we'll get you later. But I think we understand where you are, Mr. Thaler.
Because I want just...
Yeah, go right ahead.
Well, we represent a lot of affordable housing developers, and in fact, I've gone to the seminar that the county has done. When when your points may be very well taken, but coming in at the end of the process after it's been approved by the Court of Appeals is too late. Nobody wants to invest all that kind of money in our county to find the council doesn't like the way it looks. And I'm sure if you got with Mr. Hertel, if you got with Ms. Johnson, she would work it out with you and change it, frankly.
Okay.
Actually talked to her.
Oh, she wouldn't?
There's no impetus to want to change the design.
Okay.
Councilman Marks? Okay. Well, yes, Councilman Crandall.
All right, I've been biting my tongue, Mr. Thaler. You and I agree on many things, and we're friends, and I love your philanthropic work, especially in my district. But I want to remind you and some members of the development community, Mr. Hill, NAACP, the VCA was never approved by this council or the council in 2016. It was signed by a lame duck county executive without telling anybody who was on this council at that time. Since then, there has been a constant effort to erode the land use authority of this council, both by the General Assembly and by the federal government. You need to remember, we are elected and we go home to our neighborhoods that we represent every night. And we talk to the people there. And if for 1 second we say, we don't really care about your neighborhood that much, we're going to allow this project as it's being presented. And we're not going to go bat for you. How many votes are we going to get if we want to get reelected? We represent the people. So this movement to make many cities out of one end of Towson or this part, I don't see Mr. Hill proposing any affordable housing in Phoenix. In fact, there was a gentleman here in the last work session. He said, oh, I would never propose any affordable housing in my neighborhood. My neighbors wouldn't have it. They'd run me out of there. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, maybe exaggerating a little bit. But Baltimore County is a suburban area. And what we're talking about with the VCA and this so-called housing crisis that we're in is trying to create mini cities all over the place where we have school capacity problems, we have infrastructure problems, we have some failing roads, we have some failing bridges that we're taking care of and that we're budgeting for. We just went through a budget cycle. So when does it end? Well, and when does the land use authority that we were elected to exercise, when does that stop being eroded? And when does this body stop representing the people that are in neighborhoods right now that want us to do our jobs?
Well, it never ends. And of course, you have to do your job. But there's also other obligations like fair housing. We have we as a county have a legal obligation to meet fair housing. I don't know whether the council agreed to it. Are you suggesting that the council abrogate the agreement?
I would love for the council to get rid of the agreement, but that's not within our authority because the county executive signed it by executive order. Well, but then again, what's happening is that we're consistently being asked to do things that our constituents do not want, so the county can reach an agreement that none of us ever agreed to. That puts us in a very difficult position. So you wonder. You wonder why Councilman Hertel says, well, if we're going to have an affordable housing, and Councilman Hertel, since I've known him, has never mentioned that he would want to try to block an affordable housing project that made sense in his district. He's never said that to me. All he's trying to do is make a project as nice as it could be for the neighborhood and the constituents that are already there. So I don't understand where he's doing anything wrong and he's taking heat for it. And, you know, now you got me upset about it. It's not even in my district because I know it's coming to my district. And I'm sorry you're taking the brunt of this. You don't deserve the entire brunt, but this has been brewing ever since we started talking about APFO and this VCA came about.
Well, what are we going to do with, what are we going to do with housing? There is not enough The county is shrinking.
What do you mean there's not enough?
It's not enough.
Did we tear down a bunch of houses after people left Baltimore County and our population is down? Did we tear down a bunch of stuff?
We only issued 350 permits. The population is shrinking. It is not very healthy to have a
Why do we have to create in already high dense areas, like the one we're talking about in East Towson, why do we have to put apartment buildings there? Is Towson High School, is that under capacity? No.
It's because it's an excellent high school. Everybody wants to go there. My kids want to go there. Some of my kids did go there, you know?
Okay, but so the answer is more apartments everywhere throughout Baltimore County.
We're talking about 56 affordable units that the county agreed under its conciliation agreement to do.
And the councilman wants it to look nice.
Mr. Thaler.
Just one last thing, except it was approved 5 years before Councilman Ertel became a councilman. Sir.
In the city, we built a lot of large housing building. I'm not saying this is a large housing building, but we built towers that failed miserably. They looked horrible. People moved there because they needed affordable housing, and as soon as they could get out, they did. And what have we replaced them with in Baltimore City? We've replaced them with low-rise, good-looking housing that people want to stay in. But yet we'll come out to Baltimore County and let's build something that looks like an institutional building that's going to inspire people that need help. It's not inspiring. And that's all we're trying to do is build something that looks like Harris Hill, which next door is a beautiful building. It matches the neighborhood. And I'm not sure why this is so controversial.
Because it's approved by the Court of Appeals. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with anything you've said today. You want a prettier building, but with all respect, you're coming in late on this. This has been years going through the process, more than $1 million spent, and now it went before the design review panel that I'm thinking about it, which takes care of the architectural quality. It was approved by the design review panel.
With no regard to East House.
I just respectfully disagree, Councilman.
Okay, thanks.
Am I done? Thank you.
Yes, I'll just say this to close. It seems like anytime someone walks into historic East Towson and says, this place is perfect, something unwanted happens in historic East Towson. An electric plant, a park taken away. Okay. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please. That's it. Okay, we're going to go to the next item. And that item is, let me just get a moment to catch up here. I'm sorry, Councilman.
I know we jumped around because there were folks that were signed up for a resolution,
Sure.
but we had amendments on the agenda for the APFO bill.
Okay. We're going to go back to the APFO. And why don't we review the amendments? First, why don't we go to Councilman Ertel and your amendments?
I will continue to stay on the hot seat.
Yeah. Does everybody have a chance to pull up their data? They have, okay.
Do you want me to just read?
Yeah, just read through the 5 items.
All right, so I had proposed 5 amendments to the APFO bill. One is to change the 115% threshold down to 105% beginning October 1, 2028. And this would be instead of the 100% that we originally proposed. That was one amendment. The second amendment was to change the pupil yield calculation to a hybrid of the current BCPS model and the bill. Pupil yields would be based on housing types, number of bedrooms and square footage rather than just merely square footage, which was in the original bill. We've also inserted a uncodified grandfathering language, which we believe we should have put in the bill in the beginning, but for some reason we did not omitted that. So that's added. That would be added as well if approved. Change the name of the committee to Committee on Public School Capacity versus Intergovernmental, whatever we were calling it. I forget the actual terminology. And then number 5 would allow developers to pay a fee to continue development in overcrowded school districts, not in the red line. So theoretically, a fee would be derived for projects that are in areas that have more than 105% capacity. Did I do okay with that? Okay.
Oh, thank you, Councilman Ortel. Next is Councilman Marks.
Thank you. I have two amendments that are distributed, but I'm going to suggest an additional one that we take up before the vote, if the vote occurs. First, that the County Council annually approve the enrollment yield factors recommended by the committee. Secondly, require the committee to annually negotiate a memorandum of understanding with Baltimore County Public Schools and the Board of Education to govern their respective responsibilities and requirements. Also, I'd like to suggest an amendment that requires the members of the committee to be approved by the County Council.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Marks. Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My amendment would move the approval certificate or non-issuance of an approval or non-approval certificate, I guess, or issuance of no approval to the development review process instead of at the filing for building permits, which is where the certificate approval is currently in the bill.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Councilman Catch.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the amendments that I'm proposing, actually Councilman Marks with his amendment dealing with an MOU between the county and the Board of Education, it relates to that. In that, the amendments that I have deal with the requirements in the legislation that the school system do various things. For instance, to mandate that the school system produce certain reports. And also it deals with the formula or the procedure to determine school capacity. The truth is that this county council, this county cannot require that the Board of Education do anything. They are an independent agency in Baltimore County. And what we can do is to ask the state legislature through our Baltimore County delegation to address that problem. If we feel that we need to require something of the board, we need legislation passed to do that. One thing I don't want to see happen is that this bill be knocked down because it's determined to not be legal, in that we're requiring somebody to do something when we have no authority to require them. The Board of Education, the school system is set up through the state of Maryland. It is not through Baltimore County. We fund it, but have no real control over it. So that's what the amendment does.
Thank you, Councilman Catch. I'm going to have the secretary go through the other amendments. But before we go through that, I'm just going to add an amendment that I thought was going to be on here, but it's not. And it's an amendment. It was an idea that Delegate Scott Phillips called me about, and I think it's a good amendment. It's to add a member of the Maryland MBIA to the work, not the work group, to the intergovernmental committee.
Is this his first term or has he been?
Okay,
I'm sorry.
yes. Mr. Secretary, we go through the other amendments, or Councilman Jones?
No, I'll wait for the other.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the other amendments have not been formally offered yet, but they are potentially addressing items that were testified to by Mr. Gutwald and Mr. Lafferty last week, or I guess about 2 weeks ago. And we also addressed one item that Mr. Whalen had actually mentioned a few weeks ago. One potential amendment would, and this is more of a housekeeping amendment, it would change the age-restricted housing age from 60 to 55. This would conform to the code and zoning regulation sections that are already in place, and would also, I think, conform to the fair housing, the federal law. Two, change the length of time a school capacity certificate is valid from 3 years to 4 years to match development approval expiration. This was a suggestion from Mr. Gutwald. Change the waiting period on the queue from 5 years to 4 years. This was also Mr. Gutwald's suggestion. Adding purpose-built student housing to the list of exemptions and remove the square footage requirement from the development exemption. That is suggested by Mr. Whalen. And extending the time frame for adopting new regulations from 180 days to 240 days. And this was suggested by Mr. Lafferty. There are other items that were suggested, I believe, from Mr. Gutwald and Mr. Lafferty that we haven't really worked through completely, and we will just await direction on those.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I just want to make one more plea that we put the brakes on this bill and take the necessary time to get it right. Just listening to all the amendments, we are literally trying to rebuild the plane while we're flying it. None of these things will have the proper vetting because at some point we're going to vote next week. And we're literally putting forth so many amendments, we're literally changing the bill in front of our very eyes. And none of these things are getting vetting, and we're not giving BCPS the adequate input they should have as we're relating to schools. So I would urge that we put the brakes on this and get it right, as opposed to this rush to get it done with, I can't even count all the amendments, and more to come. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. And just for the record, this is our third public hearing on this particular issue. Okay, moving forward, let's move to the next item. And that's going to be Resolution 3024, Baltimore County Board of Education authorization for expenditure of non-local funds. And we have the tag team of Mr. Tantaliff and Mr. Hartlove.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I'm Whit Tantliff, the budget director at BCPS. This is Chris Hartlove, the CFO. We're here today to request authorization to expend non-local funds totaling $4.7 million through the use of BCPS's fund balance. We will use the funds to provide for the first year of a 5-year contract for an enterprise resource planning system from Oracle that includes all general ledger, budgeting, payroll, purchasing, inventory, and human resources processes. Since we're using fund balance, it will not affect spending affordability or maintenance of effort. be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any of the members have any questions or comments? Well, thank you, gentlemen, for waiting, and appreciate your thorough presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is Councilman Ertel, approval of a planned unit development, Lock Raven Overlook.
Okay. So, since I am the anti-affordable housing advocate, I'm going to put this one on the table. We are looking to do a PUD for a project on Lock Raven Boulevard that is going to be 122 units of mixed affordable housing that's going to replace a long neglected motel hotel that has been kind of an issue in the neighborhood where we're going to replace this with stable housing, a very nice looking building, provide some much needed affordable housing in Towson. And so this PUD is just merely, we need a PUD for some of the variances that will be, that we need for the site for this building to be built. It's on, I believe, on BM or BL property right now, and this will allow a residential building to be built there.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Ertel. Councilman Marks?
Thank you. When I stopped representing Lock Raven and Towson, this was an area that was kind of unfinished business for me. I put together a task force that looked at ways to redevelop this corridor, and this parcel was part of it. And we could just never reach resolution. For anyone who's not familiar with this area, it's the intersection of Lock Raven Boulevard and Joppa Road, approximately where the Belloc Diner used to be. And again, unfinished business. So I want to thank Councilman Ertel for moving this forward. You know, my hope had been that as downtown Towson redeveloped, it would push eastward. And this is a promising sign. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's too bad Mr. Hill has left the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't really want to hear when we're proactively doing things, but.
He'll be back in 5 years and name drop both of us.
Okay. Moving right along, the next item is Councilman Marks to reclassify county-owned land to public parkland. We did. Oh, we did that. Yeah. Never mind. I didn't mark that one off. Next item is Mr. Lawrence Richardson from the Department of Health and Human Services. And anybody following along? This is page 42. Feel like I'm at synagogue.
Good evening, Chairman Patoka, members of the council. The administration is requesting council approval of a contract with the Abilities Network for delivery of our Healthy Families Home Visiting Program. This is, the initial term is a 1-year term for $1,085,000, and it has 4 one-year renewals, not to exceed $5,425,000. The Healthy Families Program is a program that is used to help reduce neglect of children, and as part of the Healthy Families Prevent Child Abuse of America, one of the nation's oldest and largest child advocacy programs. Healthy Families Baltimore County is focused on preventing abuse through services which include health screenings, assessments, providing information on child development, monthly prenatal visits and postpartum visits, breastfeeding support, infant sleep guidance, and other visiting and screenings for new families.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Richardson. Any questions, comments? Councilman Ertel.
Mr. Richardson, quick question. Do you know, will we have the ability to reach out to non-English speaking populations, like some of our immigrant populations, will that be possible through this program, or?
Well, the program gets referrals from both Franklin Square, from our local hospitals, and from the health department. But yes, we would utilize, if there was a non-English speaking family coming, we would have translators be able to engage with them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Richardson. Our next item is Ms. Buckler. And Ms. Buckler, it looks like you have 3 items. Go right ahead, Ms. Buckler.
Good evening. I am here to present to you a BAT for DPWT. I do want to make the first note being that this is moving funds within DPWT. It's not moving funds from any other department. We're requesting to move $3,346,750 between various departments within Public Works and Transportation. $8,250 of this is from the Metropolitan District funds, which the council does not appropriate, but are also being transferred for a total of $3,355,000. The funds are for salaries and refuge collection expenses. Specifically within our highways department, we have additional internal employees that have advanced to the level of Tech 4. We're lucky to have a tech program within DPWT that allows employees in highways and utilities to level up as they learn to use different types of equipment, so they can come in at an entry-level labor 1 position, labor 2 position, and choose to go through our tech program and learn to use the excavator, the bulldozer, or other types of equipment. And as they learn different skills and take tests, they level up. So we're fortunate that we've had a lot of employees level up, but it's created the need to do a budget allocation transfer to cover those salaries. Within solid waste, we have hauler agreements. Those agreements run December to December on the calendar year instead of the fiscal year. So we're over on those agreements in solid waste that we needed to move funding because of the timing of those agreements versus when we do the budget. I'm happy to take any questions that you have related to this transfer.
Okay, thanks. Any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Thank you, Ms. Buckler. No, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Are we doing the next item?
Yes, next item.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Next up, we have contracts for minor mowing at the landfills. There are 2 different contracts. One is for Classic Lawn and Landscape, and one is for Lorenz Lawn and Landscape. They're for minor mowing and environmental site feature clearance services at county-owned and operated solid waste facilities. Each contract commences upon council approval and continues for 1 year and will renew automatically for 4 additional 1-year periods, with the option to extend the initial term or any renewal term for an additional 120 days. The contracts may not exceed the amount appropriated for these services for the entire contract term. The contract term over 5 years and 4 months for both contracts combined is $75,000. Any questions related to
Any
either of
members have
these?
any questions, comments? Mr. Ertel, Councilman Ertel?
Quick question. The sites, is Central Cockeysville? These are for, where?
Yes.
So we have Hernwood, Parkton, Western, and Central.
That's correct. Central is the Cockeysville site.
Okay. And why is Central so much more money to mow?
It's a larger site
Okay.
than some of these other ones.
So that's 280 per time they mow it, or is
For
that?
each time they mow it, yes. And they mow, I know it says on here, I think it's 5 or 10 mowing events per site.
Okay.
Per year.
It's not per hour or something?
No.
like that. Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, you have one more item? Or is that it?
The last item is for professional meter repair services and inspection services. We're requesting approval for the contract with Itron to provide water meter inspection and repair services throughout the county. The contract commences upon council approval and continues through November 20th, 2026. It shall remain in effect until the required services are completed. Compensation may not exceed $1,119,970 for the entire 2-year, 5-month term. So this is a contract that the county is doing in order to repair water meters that are zero reads. So when we go out and check meters, if they're reading zero, we're not getting any revenue from them. The Metropolitan Fund has to be self-sufficient. It's an enterprise fund. So if we're not getting revenue, that's being offset by those users that are paying water bills. So by being able to send somebody out and make these repairs, we generate revenue for the system, for the water bills, and then in turn for the sewer bills, because we bill the sewage based off of the water bill data.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Buckler.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is Mr. Samir Sid, Deputy County Administrative Officer. This is page 58 for those following along. It's in your sitter, Justin.
Okay.
Mr. Sid.
Good afternoon, Chair Patoka and members of the County Council. Again, my name is Samir Sid, Deputy Administrative Officer over Economic Development and Infrastructure, and I'm here today on behalf of the administration requesting a 3-year extension to the substantial completion date for the office component of the Towson Road project. I'll keep it brief, but I think an extension is appropriate in this circumstance for a few reasons. And the first and kind of like underlying reason behind it is obviously this agreement was reached in 2017, and since 2017 we've gone through a pandemic that's affected the world, and the impacts of the pandemic have been specifically profound on the office real estate market. We looked at CoStar data when evaluating these impacts. Office sales have declined by 60%. In 2023, just over 2022, office delinquency rates grew from 1.4% to 7.3% in 2023. And prevailing wisdom has indicated generally that the office market hasn't quite reached its bottom at this point. So given the inability of anyone really to anticipate the impacts of COVID, specifically on the office real estate market, I feel like it would be inappropriate to penalize the developer for not developing office by this date at this time. Second, this extension, which is 3 years in length, I think provides the best opportunity for a market rebound and to keep office as a component of this project. I've talked with some of you individually about the importance of office in terms of supporting the vibrancy of the Towson core, specifically as related to restaurant activity and retail activity. It's a big reason as to why we're bringing employees back into the office. We've tried to levy big incentives to bring in attraction tenants to this to the core, and the extension allows for this market rebound a reasonable time to occur, and for office to still be a part of the project. The last reason I'll bring up is if we don't extend, and of course the date expires at the end of June, if we don't extend, I think we're increasing the risk that this site might either sit vacant or there might be a change of use. This site or the office component of the project and the other components of the project are supported by a tax credit advance. And I think those payments are still a solid incentive to retain office as a part of the overall project. If we were to allow this date to lapse and remove this incentive, I think we're increasing the risk that there might be a change of use or potentially a vacancy of the site. So I will stop there and take any questions.
Councilman Marks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Sid. So let's go back to December 2017. Sure. The vote was 4-3 to approve $43 million in funding for this project. I voted against it, even though I represented Towson. I stand by that vote. However, as I told you, I think you're correct that there's a long-term obligation here, that the real estate market did change, and I'd be concerned about changing horses in midstream, I guess to use the right analogy. So while I didn't like that initial funding, the $43 million, I do worry about what happens if we penalize the developer 7 years after that vote.
Right. Yeah, and obviously I started in December of 2022, and so I wasn't here when the original agreement was reached, of course, but looking at the issue, just standing where I do today, I think office is a component of this project that we would like to see. It provides a benefit to all the different amenities that are currently offered on the site, and so to change course now, I think would be counter to, I think, the policy objectives that we all want to achieve, so agree.
Councilman Jones?
Yeah, it looks like I'm the sole person here on the dais that voted for it. And I do remember it, and it was a hole in the ground, and there was issues and concerns, and had we not did what we did, it probably still would be a hole in the ground. And that said, I think Councilman Marks said it best. I mean, given the market we're in now, the world has changed. I have a long list of people who own office coming to me saying, I will do anything you give me permission to do because this office is not working. And if you don't do something, I'm going to end up foreclosing and somebody else is going to come in and take it for pennies on the dollar because the office market is in trouble. And I think we're seeing some glimmers of hope. I think just recently, Social Security, a large employer in my area, has decided to make employees go back to work maybe a couple of days a week. But in my area, Social Security has a whole ton of subcontractors who are following suit with Social Security. So when they weren't at work, their contractors weren't at work, and they were getting rid of leases left and right. So clearly, I don't think anybody needs to do much homework to see that this is a truthful and accurate delay, if you will. And I guess hope and pray that 3 years is enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other, Councilman Bertel?
Yes, I have one question. If this office was to be built, the parking for it is in the Washington and Susquehanna Avenue garage. That would be for this office building because they're not building their own parking there.
That's my understanding, yes.
So not only are we're going to give this tax credit, but also the county's going to have to build a garage. Is that correct?
I don't think there's any plans to construct a new
Where are we
garage.
going to park the county employees who park in that garage? Because we already parked the hotel there.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to look into that. My assumption is that there's sufficient capacity to accommodate the office, but I can dig into that issue if you'd like me to.
I just want us to be clear to the taxpayers that it probably includes a multi-million-dollar garage as well.
I can't confirm that. I don't believe that's the case, but I'm happy to look into the issue and see where the plan is.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sid.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is Mr. Smith, Bob Smith, for those following along. This is page 62, and this is acquisition of parcel Cuckold Point Road.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and County Council.
Mr. Smith.
The administration is requesting approval of a contract to acquire approximately 8.57 acres of land and 0.62 acres of roadbeds to serve as a waterfront park in the Millers Island community. The property, which is located on the southeast side of Cuckold Point Road between 6th and 8th Street in Millers Island. The program is currently zoned DR 5.5. And the total 9.19 acre property be acquired as unimproved wooded land with water views. The county has not yet prepared a site concept or design, but anticipates that much of the wooded area will be preserved. And we also will add that $450,000 is currently in the FY25 capital budget for park planning and design for this location. I'll take any questions.
So just one quick question. This is in the capital budget?
Yes, sir. This is a FY23 capital acquisition fund, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, Councilman?
Sure. Thank you,
Randall?
Mr. Chair. Director Smith, I appreciate the administration's work on this. I've known about the interest in the county acquiring this property for some time. And if my colleagues aren't aware of Miller's Island, or maybe have never been there, it's a fairly high density developed community, water-oriented, mostly either waterfront homes or water view homes, sort of buffered by some preserved wooded land. And Miller's Island itself, the main track, Cuckle Point Road, all the way down to the end of the peninsula, is, there's just not a lot of open space there. And I do know that in the budget that we just approved, there is I don't know if it's planning or design, Director Smith, planning, design, feasibility of what amenities could potentially be placed at this particular location. But even if it's just passive open space and maintaining a wooded area in that community on the waterfront, I think would be a benefit to the community. So again, thank you, Director Smith and the administration for seeing this through, and look forward to seeing the results of the planning and design efforts.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Okay, next, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Next item, James Benjamin, County Attorney, page 65.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the council. Good afternoon. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with two firms, Grant and Eisenhofer, PA, and Beckman, Marder, Hopper, Malarkey, and Perlin, LLC, to provide legal services to recover damages related to the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse on March 26, 2024. The contract would commence upon council approval. It does not specify a termination date. The firms would advance all necessary fees, costs, and expenses. Costs and expenses will be paid only out of a recovery. Total recovery amounts and fees are not estimable at this time. However, legal fees would be limited to 15% of gross recovery. A little bit about the firms. Grant and Eisenhofer has over 25 years of experience and has evolved into a global leader in complex plaintiff affirmative litigation matters. Beckman, Marder, Hopper, Malarkey, and Perlin has significant experience and expertise in admiralty and maritime law. I would note that Paul Beckman, one of the named partners at the firm, is recognized as a top lawyer in the field of maritime law, among other things, in Best Lawyers in America. He is a member of the Admiralty Advisory Committee to the United States District Court for the District of Maryland. He's also certified as a proctor in Admiralty with the Maritime Law Association of the United States. With this contract, the administration is seeking to pursue legal claims and hold all potential liable parties responsible and accountable for the Key Bridge collapse, and to mitigate the extensive losses that the county, its residents, businesses, and other impacted stakeholders experienced as a result of this devastating catastrophe, and ensure adequate compensation for losses incurred. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share? Councilman Jones, or no? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Next item.
Thank you, sir.
Is item 15, Mr. Croner, Community Reinvestment Repair Commission and Community Reinvestment Repair Special Revenue Fund.
Good evening, Chairman Patoka, members of the council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on Bill 3724. For the record, Brad Croner from Baltimore County's Office of Government Affairs. As presented in the previous work session, this is legislation to establish a Community Reinvestment and Repair Commission and the Community Reinvestment and Repair Special Revenue Fund. As you know, back in 2022, Maryland voters approved the legalization of recreational adult use cannabis. And under that new law, a portion of state revenue generated by the sale of cannabis is dedicated to the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund. The fund will provide resources to local jurisdictions to support initiatives that benefit low-income communities and those that have been disproportionately impacted by the enforcement of cannabis prohibition. And in fact, the amount provided to each jurisdiction will be based on the total number of cannabis possession charges in that jurisdiction between July 1st, 2002 and January 1st, 2023. To date, I believe we have received over $650,000 from this fund. As proposed in the legislation, there is a commission that will make advisory recommendations for the use of these funds. That commission will consist of 9 voting members with backgrounds in workforce development, reentry services, health, public health, education, housing, homeless services, community organizations, and social work. That commission must hold at least one public input meeting each year prior to making the recommendations. Under state law, the funds distributed from the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund may not be used to fund any law enforcement agencies or activities. In addition, the funds may not supplant funding that otherwise would be appropriated for pre-existing county programs, but the fund must be used for funding community-based initiatives intended to benefit low-income communities in disproportionately impacted areas. We have distributed a survey to the public to solicit public input on how people would like to see these funds allocated. We're happy to share those results as they come in, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any of the members have questions, comments, or thoughts? Councilman.
Just real quick, and I've said this at the last work session, this is money that could be a real game changer for some of our communities. And I would caution everyone that we need to be very careful as a county. I've already heard from a lot of groups that don't seem to have our people's best interest in there. Everybody's got their hand out for this new money, and we can do a lot of things: job training, programs for kids, youth camps. There's a ton of things that we can do with this money, and I think as a council, we really need to scrutinize that we're doing the best things with this money to move people forward and not give it to people that are going to be selling us a bill of goods and not really helping our people. So that's, I hate to sound negative, and it's not negative at all. I think we have, like I said, I think this is going to be some, it's really going to be a game changer if we use the money correctly.
Totally agree. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Croner, I have just 2 comments. One is related to the makeup of the commission. There's 9 appointments of the county executive. There's additional ex officio of Baltimore County Economic Workforce Development, Housing and Community Development, Health and Human Services, Board of Education, community colleges, so that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, there's 13 county executive appointees, 0 council appointees. Just want to point that out. And also, Councilman Ertel is correct that this could be a game changer. However, looking at the appointments list, I don't see anyone that has a ground game out in the community. And that's really important in making decisions for the community. You need to have a ground game. And so all I see is, I don't know who the 9 members are, but I think the council members have a good sense on what's happening on the ground. So please consider adding some appointments from the council. Also, please consider having maybe the Department of Planning should have a ground game, and community engagement should have a ground game. Right now, I just see like a very high level of decision making and nothing percolating up. It's all percolating down. And I think we could do better than that. So if you wouldn't, I would suggest consider the makeup of that and look at some alternatives. And then I would also say we're now in the process of confirming every commission that comes in. So I would say that we would also, at least I would, I don't know if the colleagues feel like that maybe there should be some level of confirmation, since according to the first draft here, there's no council involvement at all. There's 0 council involvement. So please consider that. And those are my comments. Councilman Crandall?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if I'm not mistaken, when you brought this up at the first reading, Mr. Croner said that he and the administration would be open to amending the structure. And perhaps, I don't know if he stated this, but it seems that the administration would also be open to a confirmation by the council. And so I agree with both you and Councilman Hertel that the council should have involvement in this particular commission. You know, I mean, the bill's before us, so we can, any one of us can amend it. And I'd be happy to speak with you and Mr. Croner in the next week to see how we might want to come up with an amendment that we can get produced before the legislative session and posted and follow the young rules. Mr. Process over there.
The young rules.
But, yes, sir, if I may.
So if that's okay, Mr. Croner, I didn't mean to speak for you, but that is what you said on the record last week.
Yes, sir, it is. As we talked about in briefings previously and in the past work session, we're happy to have a conversation about how this commission can be restructured or changed to have more council appointees on that group. Happy to have that conversation.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Croner.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, County Council.
Okay, next is, I think we're on council bills. This is a bill that I've introduced, Bill 3824, and this creates a limited mechanism for withdrawal of a CZMP issue. There are some cases where it's beneficial in one way or another to have a CZMP issue withdrawn. I can say in one of my cases, a CZMP issue in my district is trying to gain financing that's separate from the CZMP issue itself. And so the CZMP issue that I filed is prohibited some of the financing agreements that they could engage in, so I'd like to withdraw it. I think there may be other cases where, in a limited way, that a sponsor or council member, I think it's not, a planning board member cannot, but a council member can withdraw an issue in a very limited way, and so this creates a mechanism for that. Okay, if no questions, we'll move on to the next one. This is Councilman Catch and Marks on zoning issues for elderly senior housing overlay district.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this legislation will do, it will create a senior living overlay district. Communities go through these cycles, and you have communities where elderly people are living in their house. They're empty nesters with, their children are gone. And many of them don't want the upkeep of the home because they're usually large homes and they don't need them any longer. And on top of it, our property taxes are increasing, so it's a burden on them, on seniors. And so what this particular bill does is it allows us during the CZMP process to designate certain areas, reserve it for senior housing. And it has certain requirements. For instance, if you have a married couple move in and one of the individuals is younger than 55, 55 is the age, younger than 55, and the other person leaves, or the one who's 55 or older leaves or dies, for instance, and if the other person is below 55, that person, after a certain number of years, would have to leave the community. There's also a limit on how long a young person who's a relative can live in the unit as well. So it's really strictly a senior living facility. What I did was I followed, in essence, the federal law. And I have two areas in my district I have in mind. Both of them are adjacent to shopping centers, which makes it very convenient for the seniors. And looking up here, I mean, I know that Councilman Ertel and Councilman Jones and the chair of the council, they all are empty nesters and getting up there, so
I'm already up there, Wade.
oh, really? Oh, okay. So, no, all kidding aside. So, yeah, this is an option. And, you talk to older people, and now I don't personally understand it because, as a teacher, I like to be around young people, but, not everybody wants to live in an apartment building with a lot of young kids running around. So they're interested in the senior living, and they're interested in the amenities that come with senior living. And this particular overlay district does discuss the amenities with the senior living. Thank you.
Councilman Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilman just was curious because when we heard it last week, and I think in my head too, I was picturing, folks try to develop a senior housing unit. But it sounds like what you're saying too, the overlay might apply to an existing community. Or it could, and or one that's being built or developed specifically with that.
Yeah.
And so I guess in practice then, if you have you mentioned that there's time limits. So if you place this overlay over a certain community that doesn't have all senior folks, that doesn't apply to them, or and if they own the home and you put the overlay down and they don't qualify as a senior, they can stay there until they sell, but they have to sell to a senior person in the overlay?
I actually haven't thought of that situation, but, I don't know the answer to the question. I don't know if our council secretary or the law office could answer that question.
And we can talk more, like I said, in my mind, when it was being described the first time, I was thinking,
Yeah.
what we're used to, a senior housing development unit. But like you described, I'd be happy to get those questions and talk to you about it offline as well, but we just wanted to bring it up.
I think existing communities and, do the overlay district. I think that's fine.
Sure, yeah, and just,
But how you phase it in, I don't know.
and just the other question I had related to it was if a senior, a parent sells or leaves their house to their child who doesn't qualify as a senior, I know you mentioned some of the stipulations about how long somebody could stay there. Effect on property value, I'm just not familiar with, because they can't sell it to somebody, like the child that who inherited can't sell it to somebody else who isn't a senior.
I would, I know there's demand for them.
Right.
So, it's all a game of demand.
Fair enough.
And supply and demand. So I would think when I do the CZMP in my district, I'm going to use it sparingly how it works. But I do know that there is a market for it.
Right.
In my district about 4 years ago, I had a study done regarding how many apartment units my district could support.
Right.
And part of the report dealt with senior housing, and there
Sure.
was quite a bit of interest in that.
Right.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Not that your question.
All good, no, thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to address Councilman Catch's point. If there's an issue you wanted the law office to take a look at, happy to touch base with you and provide any necessary feedback for you if need be.
Possible, if we need an amendment to give the flexibility, should a developer take a existing community and it has the senior overlay, how the wording would be in the bill to allow it to convert to that. So,
That's something that we can look at
Good.
and circle back with you in short order.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin and Mr. Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't mean to be facetious on this, but I just found it a little odd.
You're careful.
Excuse me?
No, go ahead.
Wait.
I'm afraid you're going to get to my.
But I just found it odd that, so if one spouse is 55 can buy into this particular overlay. If the 55-year-old has a spouse who is 40, 55 passes away, the 40-year-old needs to move out in 5 years.
That's correct.
I just find that a little odd. Now, they have to be 40, right?
the federal-
So what if one spouse is 55, but another spouse is 35? Does the 55-year-old dies, does the 35-year-old have to move out? Immediately. Now, they don't get 5 years because they're not 40.
Yeah,
Or maybe a 55-year-old has a 21-year-old spouse.
What you talking about, Todd?
I'm just saying. I mean, it happens.
I mean, you could be right that the younger spouse may have to leave.
So if a 55-year-old passes, but the surviving spouse is 44, they have to leave immediately?
No,
I'm sorry, 39.
39. Well, of course, yeah, I guess, yeah.
How far after they're in the ground do they have to go?
I don't know. What would it be?
Again, I don't mean to be facetious, but this is like
Well, we can,
conceivable. We don't want to.
you're
We don't want to pass something that just like totally disrupts someone's living situation because they happen to have a spouse that unfortunately
you're right.
passed before they were 40.
These are the ages that other senior communities have that I looked into. That's the only reason that the 40 is there, and then there's the. So, one of the things that you got to make sure of, you don't want a community, it's seniors.
Well, I understand the spirit of it. I'm just wondering about the practicality of it.
Okay, thank you.
No comment. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Wade.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall, Councilman Ketch. I was going to ask Councilman Young to try to figure out a procedure to stop this discussion. But, okay. Next item is, we're into, Councilman Ketch has employee retirement system.
Yeah, this particular piece of legislation really refers to the members of the county council and the retirement system. Right now, the members of the county council are eligible for cost of living increases when the other county employees get the COLAs. And what this bill does is it takes them away. It takes the COLAs away. And for people who, on the council who retire after January 1, 2025, instead of the COLAs, what happens is every 4 years, should the council salary change, the percent of the council salary that the retired member is entitled to would be applied to the current salary of the council. This is the way that most of the retirement systems of legislators are done. The state legislature's that way, and works pretty well.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Councilman Ketch? Okay, thank you, Councilman Ketch. Now we're moving to bills for first consideration. First one is Bill 4124. It's a bill that I'm sponsoring, and it's limited uses permitted in the BLR zone. And with this, we've talked a lot about the changing nature of retail. And so sometimes traditional retail is not working anymore in bricks and mortar. So this allows, under limited conditions, an animal boarding place. It's really, what we're really talking about is doggy daycare. And so something that you physically need to get out of the house, you can't get it on Amazon or any other online shopping. And so it creates another use for bricks and mortar. Any questions, comments? Okay, next item is Councilman Crandall, zoning regulations, uses in the BMBR related to Back River.
And I was just reminded by Ms. Smelkinson that that is the penultimate item today.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Crandall, you have the penultimate item.
What an honor.
Thank you, Ms. Melkinson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Bill 4324 falls into the same sort of spirit that Councilman Patoka just mentioned, in that we've mentioned that, I've mentioned it several times in the past 10 years, and other members have mentioned it, that our code sometimes does not always keep up or is not up to date with what modern opportunities might be at certain locations, and allowed uses in certain zones may not fit what a modern opportunity may be. So this bill would permit certain ML uses in the BM and BR zones in specific properties of a certain size in the Chesapeake Enterprise Zone, which is in the North Point, Diamond Point, sort of that stretch of Eastern Avenue between Essex and Dundalk. Diamond Point Shopping Center was there was some commercial activity there. However, it was sold. It needed to come down, essentially. That project has moved forward, and the building is, as approved by the county, is up. No tenant has been identified. And then East Point Mall has plans for the redevelopment that the county is reviewing right now. And what I wanted to do with this legislation was to create more opportunity in terms of more opportunity and more diverse opportunity in terms of what a BL or BM, I'm sorry, a BM or a BR would allow for, and have these developers have the ability to go out into the marketplace and seek different types of tenants that could perhaps bring in more diverse or even higher paying jobs or industries that maybe would not necessarily be allowed in the BM and BR zone. So this is kind of an economic development bill, and it's a zoning flexibility bill, and it's I think, as I said, just an update that particularly suits this area that I spoke of. So if anyone has any questions, I just appreciate my colleagues' support and consideration of this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Any comments? Hearing none, we're going to go to the last item. Councilman Marks, it's your item, the Eco Park.
Yeah, thank you. This bill would create another overlay district with the idea of advancing environmentally friendly uses, such as solar energy. I know this has been the allowance of solar facilities has been somewhat controversial, and all too often these are going on prime farmland in historic areas. And Maryland does have a goal of reaching 50% solar energy by 2030. But my thought is that the council could proactively designate areas where there are solar facilities and other environmentally renewable uses during the CZMP process. So we take the lead in doing this rather than just leaving it up to the private industry to pick where it's going to go. So I think it's a good idea, and I look forward to further fleshing it out with all of you.
Okay, thank you. So this concludes our meeting. Thank you, everyone, for staying all this time, and have a good evening, everyone.